I bought a used Subaru Outback in Sacramento last March. The dashboard GPS held 14 saved destinations from the previous owner. The list was alphabetized by city. The salesman had not bothered to wipe it. The first time I started the car, I scrolled through the list out of curiosity. A hospital in Roseville. A florist in Davis. A wedding venue near Lake Tahoe. A small cemetery outside Reno. I had no plans to visit any of those places. 3 weeks later, my doctor sent me to the Roseville hospital for a scan. The address on the referral matched the saved destination exactly. I checked the GPS list when I got home. There it was. The dealership was a small independent lot on Folsom Boulevard. About 30 cars on the lot at any time. The salesman was a man named Mike Petros. He had been selling cars there for 19 years. He told me the Subaru had been a trade-in from an estate executor. The executor had handed him the keys and asked for cash. Mike had given him $11,000 on the spot. The car had 94,000 miles, clean Carfax, all maintenance records in the glove compartment. The previous owner had been a single owner who took good care of it. Mike did not know his name. He did not have any contact information for the executor. I commute 40 minutes each way to a job in Roseville. I drive the same loop every week. Grocery store on Tuesdays. Hardware store on Saturdays. I have lived in Sacramento for 15 years. I have routines. I do not visit hospitals or cemeteries or wedding venues. The 14 destinations in the GPS represented places I had never been and had no reason to go. I deleted 6 of them after the first week to free up space for my own home address and work address. I forgot about the rest. The Roseville hospital scan was the second time I had thought about the list since buying the car. I started paying closer attention to it after that. 2 weeks after the hospital trip, my mother called. Her best friend's daughter was getting married in Davis and she wanted me to drive her to the bridal shower. The shower was being held at a florist on G Street. I drove my mother to the address. When I pulled up, I recognized the storefront. I had seen it on the GPS list. I checked the list when I got back into the car. The florist's address was still saved as destination number 5. I called Mike at the dealership. He confirmed the car had been on his lot for 2 months before I bought it. The destinations had been entered before he received the car. I started keeping a journal. Every time I went to a new address, I checked the GPS first. By August, I had visited 11 of the 14 destinations. The dentist on H Street where my regular dentist had referred me for a crown. The wedding venue near Lake Tahoe where my cousin held his ceremony. A small park in Folsom where a friend asked me to scatter his father's ashes. A funeral home in Elk Grove for a coworker's service. Each one had been on the list. None of them had been on my calendar when I bought the car. The list was not telling me where to go. The list already knew where I would go. I requested the previous owner's information from the DMV using the VIN. The car had been registered to a man named Carl Bergquist of Stockton. He had owned it from new in 2018 until his death in September of last year. He had been 67 years old. The death certificate listed the cause as a heart attack. Carl had been a retired highway maintenance engineer. He had no children. He had been divorced for 30 years. He had a younger sister in Stockton named Inga. I drove to Stockton in September. Inga met me at a coffee shop on Pacific Avenue. She had been clearing out Carl's apartment for 6 months. She still had his belongings in storage. Inga gave me a small leather diary from Carl's last year. The diary held a list of 14 planned trips. Each entry was a destination and an intended arrival date. The destinations matched the addresses on the GPS exactly. The intended arrival dates matched the dates I had actually arrived at each location. I checked the journal I had been keeping. Hospital scan March 20th. Diary entry Hospital March 20th. Florist on G Street April 14th. Diary entry Florist on G Street April 14th. All 11 of my visits matched all 11 of Carl's intended visits to the day. Inga had no explanation. She told me her brother had been a careful planner but never a fortune teller. 3 of the saved destinations remain. I have not yet visited any of them. The first is a small clinic in Reno specializing in cardiology. The diary entry beside it is dated January 17th of next year. I have no cardiac issues that I am aware of. The second is a private residence in Truckee with no business listing or known occupant. The diary entry is dated April 3rd. The third destination is a cemetery outside Reno called Mountain View. The diary entry beside it is dated August 20th. The diary contains no further entries past August 20th. The pages after that date are blank. Carl filled the diary in pen. The blank pages are not torn out. I drove to Mountain View Cemetery in October. I parked outside the gates and walked in. Inga had told me Carl was buried at a different cemetery in Stockton. I walked the rows looking for whatever the destination might have been. About 40 rows in I found a small headstone in the section reserved for prepaid plots. The plot had been purchased and the headstone installed, but the burial had not yet taken place. The name engraved on the headstone was mine. My full first name. My middle name. My last name. The date of birth matched my own. The line for the date of death had been left blank. The maintenance log listed the headstone purchase date as November of 2024. I have not driven the Subaru in 2 months. It sits in my garage covered with a tarp. The GPS still holds 3 destinations. I have not deleted them. I have not been to a cardiologist. I have not visited Truckee. I have stopped looking at my calendar more than a week ahead. Inga has not returned my last 2 calls. The cemetery office sent me a letter offering to refund the prepaid plot if I would sign a release form. I have not signed it. The form lists the original purchaser as Carl Bergquist. Carl never met me. He died 6 months before I bought his car. The plot beside mine was prepaid by him also. The headstone reads his name.